This girl is a noble lady but has a hobby of drawing 18+ pictures. People draw landscapes, draw rivers and mountains, but she only draws nudes. When she can't find a male model, she'll just slap her crush's face ID onto it. A true original hentai artist, if I've ever seen one. Today, she just intended to take her drawings to hide in a secret spot. But unexpectedly, halfway there, she was spotted by a very scary-looking guy in black. In her head, this girl immediately thought of 7,749 scenarios of herself being kidnapped. Cut 2. Just like that, in a panic, her secret was discovered by that guy. Seeing the ground full of drawings of little warblers made the guy speechless too. Seriously. Anyway, the secret's been exposed, so what's the point of shame anymore? She immediately called for people, accusing him of being a kidnapper. He accused her of being a pervert. But when they heard the servant explain, they realized it was all just a misunderstanding. This man is Sergeant Ryan Sutton, just returned from the front lines. Although the misunderstanding had been cleared up, but these two kids still had a bad attitude, not liking each other. But in front of other people, they still had to act all noble-ish. If the maid wasn't here, these two would probably have jumped into combat. When walking past Korea's person, he suddenly said a sentence. "You've probably never seen a live model, have you?" Then he hinted at the candle. "It's not that small, you know." Hearing that, she was totally confused. Huh? What does a candle have to do with being big or small? But when she accidentally saw the painting, she finally knew what he was talking about. It turns out, Ryan was the original model in her drawing. The story has to be told from a few years ago. At that time, Ryan often had to carry out extremely secret missions on the battlefield. Once his identity was exposed, the mission would be totally screwed. So he had his blonde-haired subordinate act as his body double. After the war was won, that guy accidentally became a youth idol and the nation's husband for all the sisters, including the main character, the unlucky girl who drew a nude of her crush, only to be discovered by the man himself. I'm telling you, you have to be really lucky to be this unlucky. On top of that, she got criticized hard. What kind of drawing is this, so small, how dare she draw his eagle? As a little warbler, it's so infuriating. At Eloy's house, when she just got back, her father called her over to talk. "I just heard you went to Blissberry yesterday." Hearing that, the girl just scratched her head and stammered. He continued. "That person said you are a very interesting girl." "What? He called me interesting?" While she was still extremely confused, her father dropped some shocking news. He said he's really looking forward to our next meeting. So tomorrow night we will be having dinner with Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Sutton. Hearing that, she froze for 5 seconds. This situation is really screwed. Her eyes couldn't hide her fear. If he breathed half a word about that nude drawing, she'd probably have to find a hole to crawl into from the shame. To be a noble lady, but to like drawing 18+ pictures, where could she hide her shame? In her imagination, the dinner would go like this. She and her father would be invited to Ryan's luxurious villa. Then he would put on a very sinister face and reveal her dark secret. "Sir, your daughter is a weirdo and extremely perverted." Just thinking about it made her scared. Hurriedly shaking off the illusion, "I have to make sure to shut him up about the drawing." But then she suddenly realized, wait a minute. Thinking back, that guy doesn't have any witnesses or evidence. Even if he said it, no one would believe him. There's nothing to worry about. Easier said than done. The next day, she was still quite nervous, just praying that guy wouldn't say any nonsense. As she was resting her head on the gate, from a distance, a figure slowly approached, followed by the deep, warm voice of a man. "Seeing you here, I'm sure I've come to the right place." Hearing the stranger's voice, Aloy was startled and looked up. It was Ryan. Today, he was wearing a dapper outfit, looking very aristocratic. She stood there stunned, her eyes couldn't help but sparkle. But just thinking about the drawing, she was still salty about it. This guy. Even her duck was showing its attitude. Like owner, like pet. He suddenly took a piece of paper from his coat and held it up in front of her. "I'm sure you haven't forgotten this." The moment she saw that paper, which was the new drawing of Grad, she was sweating buckets. "I thought I burned it all, erased all the traces. Why is it still here?" This guy hid it really well. after discovering he still had dirt on her. The girl immediately changed her attitude. "Ahaha, we meet again, Sir Ryan. My name is Ryan Sutton," he replied. After Ryan stepped inside, she also hurriedly crumpled a drawing in her hand. He said slowly, "Yesterday I met Sir Sebastian. He said that managing Blisbury needs his help. Therefore, I want to maintain a good relationship with his family. Even with his daughter, who has an overly prying hobby about the opposite sex. So, let's just pretend that incident never happened. For the sake of harmony with Miss Sebastian here." Hearing him say that, she was stunned. She couldn't believe it would be resolved this simply. Just then, she thought her life was over, because there was no way she could be harmonious with him. 1 hour later, everyone sat down at the table for dinner. At the dining table, she was lost in her own thoughts. The food Emily prepared and the father brought were all wonderful. Even Pastor Harrison and his wife made the atmosphere warm and lively. She grimaced, her eyes showing annoyance. Everything was perfect except for one thing, which was the guy sitting right next to her. At this time, Ryan was chatting with Eloy's father, completely ignoring her. "I know, Sir Sebastian, Blisbury is a very beautiful place, so its maintenance and preservation should be a priority." He also smiled in reply. "It's wonderful that we see eye to eye. You can see the two of them we're getting along very well." She thought to herself, what the hell? He was so aggressive before, but now he's so polite and kind. He's completely different than when he's with me. What a two-faced jerk. The meal ended, she decided to go to her room to rest. "I'm feeling a bit suffocated, I should probably go to my room." But as she was going up the stairs, she suddenly heard her father talking with Ryan. "Sergeant Sutton, you were in the same battalion as the famous Colonel Grave, weren't you?" Just hearing the name Krat made the girl's ears perk up to eavesdrop. "You probably met the Colonel a lot, right? If you don't mind, could you tell us about him?" Ryan answered bluntly. "There aren't many interesting stories to tell. The anecdotes about heroes are just a few rare days in a long year." But he didn't know that outside, a girl crazy for a handsome man was eavesdropping. But people still managed to create miracles. "You too, try telling us." Lori clasped her hands, her eyes sparkling, waiting eagerly. "That's right, tell us." But at this moment, Lori's mother suddenly spoke up. "Colonel Grave is a coward. There have been many stories about the Battle of Ingon. A coward like that doesn't deserve to receive a medal." That accusation made Ryan not know how to respond. Everyone saw this and hurriedly spoke up for Sergeant Sutton. "Please understand. My wife's brother died in that battle." But she wouldn't stop, continuing to ask. "You must have been at that battle too, right? Sir Sutton, what do you think of that Colonel Grey?" Outside, Eloy's eyes became troubled when someone accused the hero in her heart of being a coward. "Why is he silent? Refute it. That's your hero. As someone who met him in person, you should know better than anyone." But Ryan's answer made her freeze. "The lady is right about Colonel Grave's actions at Ingon. I also believe it deserves criticism." Someone's voice from the past flashed in his mind. His order to retreat came too early. His hand instinctively clenched. But according to his account, while the 57th Infantry Battalion retreated with insignificant casualties, the other battalions, the units that held out until the very end, none of them survived. Those who worship him as a hero are pathetic. He is a despicable man who abandoned his patriotism and only worried about his own life. At this moment, Eloy decided not to eavesdrop anymore. She stepped in front of Ryan, refuting what he said. "I don't agree." Her eyes radiated confidence and determination, not allowing anyone to speak ill of the hero. In her heart, Ryan frowned, his eyes looking at her darkly. "This girl." Her father quickly tried to stop her. "What are you doing, Eloy?" Ryan ignored it and said bluntly, "I have observed the colonel for a long time, while you only know him through news and portraits from this remote place." Hearing that, Eloy suddenly felt less confident than before. Her hand tightened. "That's right. But I believe." Her eyes looked straight at him without a trace of fear. Despite her mother trying to stop her, she still had to speak. "I understand Colonel Grave better than you, Sergeant Sutton." Her mother was angry. That's enough, Aloy, go to your room now. I understand your infatuation with Colonel One Grave. But you are not allowed to be rude to a guest. Ryan closed his eyes, cursing inwardly. Infatuation. What damned infatuation? I came here to avoid people like her. Women who are willing to die for One Grave. In the flickering firelight of the hearth, her gentle but firm voice rang out. You think I'm saying this because I worship One Grave? Blindly. Ignoring her father who was desperately trying to stop her, she walked straight over to Ryan. Then she reached out and took a book from behind him and placed it on the table. She flipped through the book, found the right page, and pointed to what was written on it. The battlefield was located on a high plateau, causing all the soldiers to suffer under severe altitude sickness. Her finger pointed to the spot marked with an X. Worse, their food supply was also cut off. And when the army's stamina was depleted, they fell into an enemy ambush. Hearing Eloy's decisive rebuttal, Ryan's mind seemed to return to the battlefield of the past. He thought to himself, she's right. I had to make a choice. The lives of the entire 57th Infantry Battalion were in my hands. So, in the end, I disobeyed orders and gave the command to retreat. That was exactly what Aloy wanted to say. It wasn't blind faith, but based on solid evidence and legitimate reasons. She looked straight into Ryan's eyes, giving an unwavering, undeniable explanation. The colonel chose that cowardly path to save everyone. Therefore, I think you should be a little more grateful to him. In this moment, Ryan suddenly felt his dark heart, as if it had just been touched by warm sunlight. I thought no one would ever be on my side. Until I met her. The one who stood up against the criticism. Thank you, Miss Seberton. Note, from this part on, the author changed the male lead's last name from Sun Tan to Thon Tan. Aloy was startled, not understanding why he was looking at her like that. Just a moment ago, he seemed so aggressive. But when she realized he was thanking her, she immediately replied angrily. You should be thanking the colonel, not me. Seeing this, her father could only helplessly intervene. That's enough, Aloy. Ryan asked her where she got the information about the battle. Loion, the book nonchalantly replied, oh, it's all in the newspapers. Thanks to that, even from far away, I can still understand Sir One Grave's tactics, without needing to be by his side like some people. The words were like a sharp arrow, stabbing straight into his pride. She put the book back on the shelf and said, I'm going to my room. Before leaving, she also didn't forget to say goodbye, according to the proper etiquette of a noble lady. Well then, I wish everyone a pleasant evening. After she left, the room fell silent. As he was leaving, Eloy's father could only apologize to Ryan. Please forgive me, Sergeant Sutton. My daughter is quite interested in the stories about Colonel One Grave. She even has a portrait of him in her room. He replied, ah, so that's why she recognized that face. The father looked puzzled. What face? He quickly waved his hand. It's nothing. Was he going to say his daughter drew a nude picture of him? He just added, more importantly, please send my regards to Miss Aloy. Thank you for understanding Colonel One Grave. The next day, Aloy was sitting absently alone by her canvas. No one knew what she was thinking. Suddenly, a pebble hit the window. She heard the noise and immediately looked happy. Hurrying to open the window, the person waiting below also waved at her. This girl is Abigail, Eloy's best friend. What are you doing in there for so long? Let's go for a walk. Aloy said with a hint of sadness. Sorry, I'm grounded for a week. Abigail was surprised but continued to tempt her. Sneaking out for a day won't hurt anyone. But she hadn't even finished her sentence when Eloy's father appeared. He spoke in a deep voice, making her friend break out in a sweat. Aloy is being disciplined, no exceptions. Even if you are her best friend. But yesterday's actions had made her father very angry. Reflect on your behavior towards our guest. You are grounded for 1 week. Because she didn't dare to argue with her father. She could only take out all her dissatisfaction on Ryan. It's all because of that hateful Ryan Sutton. When they heard he had returned from the war, the girls in the area constantly came to Aloy to ask for information. I heard you met Sergeant Sutton. What does he look like? Is he handsome? Is he tall? What about his muscles? A barrage of questions left her not knowing how to answer. Her dad suddenly stepped out from the house, startling the other girls. He spoke in a cold voice. Aloy isn't feeling well, so she needs to rest. Right, daughter. In the end, she had to ask her friends to leave. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She took out all her anger on the paintbrush. In the painting, the figure of a man gradually appeared, being chased and bitten by her own pet. No need to say who he is. At this moment, her father's voice suddenly called from downstairs. Aloy, run to Blissberry. I borrowed quite a few books that I haven't returned. Go return them for me. But she hadn't even left the house when her mother reminded her. Are you planning to go to Sergeant Sutton's place looking like that? I don't think that's appropriate. Cut to Ryan sleeping in bed. His hand suddenly clenched. He woke with a start, his whole body drenched in sweat. Realizing it was all just a nightmare, he breathed a sigh of relief, placing his hand on his forehead. That dream again. He changed his clothes and stepped outside. When he reached a river, he stopped, left his shoes on the bank, and slowly stepped into the water. Soaking his hands in the cool water, he couldn't help but get lost in thought. The nightmare I'll never forget. It visits right when I'm about to forget it. Dead bodies everywhere. The desperate faces of my comrades. Even now, their words still echo in my ears. Colonel One Grave. Do you really understand the chain of command? Ryan. One Grave, they said. You use other people's lives as a shield. Every time I have that nightmare, I can't eat or sleep peacefully. Even coming to Blissberry to escape doesn't bring any comfort or relief. There's nothing to do, everything is quiet. Instead, there's just being lost in my own thoughts. As he was tormenting himself over the past, he suddenly heard the sound of a carriage. A girl stepped out of the carriage. It was Aloy. Ryan was very surprised to see her here. He thought to himself, did something happen to her carriage? But then she suddenly slammed her hand hard on the carriage, then looked up at the sky and shouted, I really don't want to see that weirdo Sutton one bit. Her words made him startle and break out in a sweat. I didn't even do anything. Why does this girl hate me so much? Rewind to 2 hours earlier. Eloy's mother said to her, I heard Sergeant Sutton isn't eating well. Maybe some sweets will help him feel better. Yes. She pointed at the basket of pastries, annoyed. So I have to go deliver apple tarts. All 3 of these. Her parents both advised her. Please don't argue about the colonel with him anymore. And don't forget to return the books. Yes, I'll be back later. Seeing her daughter leave, her mother couldn't help but worry. Seriously. I hope she'll get along with him a little. Back to the present. Aloy continued to shout, Sergeant Sutton, that name. I don't want to see his face at all. Ryan, who was hiding behind a nearby tree, didn't dare to make a sound. Under the cool shade of the tree, Aloy sat down on the soft grass and took out the tart that her mother had prepared. She brought the tart to her mouth and took a bite. Her eyes immediately sparkled. This is so delicious. The apple filling is sweet and the cinnamon flavor is so strong. She held the large tart with both hands and took a huge bite. This is the best way to eat. No knife, no fork. Noble etiquette or proper lady manners. Who cares? Thinking that no one would see her, Aloy ate very happily, not knowing that behind the tree, a pair of eyes was staring intently at her. After eating, she quickly packed up her things, preparing to leave. These precious apple tarts. Mom said they were for Sergeant Sutton. But no way, I'm definitely going to finish them all myself. 3 pieces is too many to give as a gift. Hearing that, Ryan couldn't help but laugh. This girl is such a glutton. At this point, there was only 1 tart left in the basket. The last one. She took the tart out while muttering, should I eat it all? I'm sure just leaving 1 slice is fine. But before she could even eat it, Ryan stepped out from his hiding spot, being caught red-handed, sneaking food right in front of the intended recipient. This situation was just too embarrassing. With no other choice, she had to offer him the tart. But she was thinking something else. Everyone knows I'm just being polite. So he'll probably politely decline, right? But unexpectedly, he said, thank you, and directly took a piece of apple tart from her hand. She definitely didn't see that move coming. After that, he sat down next to her, slowly eating the tart. After finishing, he didn't say anything, just looked at her. Aloy was startled, not daring to look Ryan in the eye. He's glaring at me. Why, it's just a few tarts. Does he need to glare at me like that? Looking back at the basket, which she had eaten 2/3 of, she couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed and asked Ryan, "Do you want some more?" She thought he would just eat one piece to be polite. But unexpectedly, he reached out and took piece after piece. It's been a long time since he'd had such an appetite. I wasn't planning on eating it all. I was just going to take it and leave. But why does it look so delicious? Is there something special about this apple tart? Very quickly, the last tart was finished by Ryan. He rubbed his stomach and said, "The tart was delicious. I'm very happy that Mrs. Sebastian's gift reached the right recipient." Aloy heard this and was furious. So this guy heard everything she said. She angrily asked, "When did you get here?" He didn't hide it and answered frankly, "Since your carriage stopped." She turned her face away and snorted, "HMPH. Impressive. Eavesdropping without making a single sound. Do you use that skill for your job?" Seemingly not noticing the sarcasm in her question, he still answered without hesitation, "Of course. I'm quite proud of it. It helped me win medals and the trust of my superiors." Sitting next to him, she thought irritably, "This braggart. I really want to punch him." She suddenly asked, "Speaking of superiors, does that include the colonel?" Hearing that, he suddenly fell silent. After a moment, he slowly said, "Miss Aloy." Actually, I cut to Aloy, who had returned home and was talking to her friends. You know what he said. "I have something urgent to do, so I have to go." And he still avoided the topic of the colonel. It's so suspicious. The three girls sat silently, listening intently. The blonde girl suddenly spoke up. "LOI, does that mean?" Sergeant Sutton was still hungry after eating the tarts. It turns out this was what they cared about. Aloy was speechless. It's true, once you're boy crazy, you'll be boy crazy in the next life too. The news about Ryan Sutton being hungry spread quickly. But she didn't expect it to spread that much. The next day, at the riverbank, Ryan was taking off his clothes, preparing to get in the water, when he suddenly panicked, noticing something. Immediately, a high-pitched scream echoed through the quiet forest. It turned out, on the bank, she didn't know since when, Aloy was standing there, face bright red, staring at Ryan's body, which had not a single scrap of clothing. He could only shamefully use a towel to cover the important part. "No, sorry. If you don't mind, could you please come back another time?" She embarrassedly lifted the basket to cover her face. "Sorry. I heard Sergeant Sutton hadn't eaten anything." After saying that, she immediately ran back home, without looking back, leaving Ryan standing there stunned. How did she know I hadn't eaten? He quickly dried himself off and got dressed again, his mind sinking back into confusing thoughts. The day I have that nightmare, I can't eat or drink anything. Especially when the old memories resurface so vividly. Even before I learned to read, to me, father never existed. Unable to bear the social pressure, my mother left for the countryside and married a farmer. That's why I have the last name One Grave. Ryan remembered that day, when he was living a peaceful life. The appearance of one person shattered it. The door slowly opened. Outside, his mother's voice rang out. "This is my son, Ryan. Ryan, say hello, this is Count Wallace." The other man spoke with an annoyed tone. "Who gave you permission to use my name?" Facing that man, she could only bow her head in apology. Seeing his mother treated like that, he was furious. Without a moment's hesitation, he rushed forward to argue. "How dare you lay your hands on my mother?" The man roared in anger. "You lowly thing, how dare you, let go." His mother could only hug him tightly, endlessly pleading. "Ryan, stop. This person is your biological father." But at that time, he still looked at him with angry eyes. Why did he have to show up here? Returning to the present, Ryan was lying on the green grass, looking at the sky. Noticing the cloud above looked just like the tart he had eaten. He couldn't help but remember the apple tart Aloy's mother made. In his mind, Aloy was a very strange girl. In short, her operating system and her interface had nothing to do with each other. She dressed like a proper city lady, but she acted like a country girl. I've thought so since I met her. The girl with the rosy cheeks. My eyes just keep turning towards her, following her as if walking on clouds. That floating weightless feeling. He couldn't help but remember every word Aloy had said. Does it include Colonel One Grave? But the voices of his comrades also echoed in his head. No, she's just a normal fan. Do you really believe she defends you? With all her sincerity. She's deluding herself. That she alone understands that man. Still lost in her mistake. Ridiculous. The sky, which had been sunny, was suddenly covered by a dark cloud. Drops of rain began to fall on Ryan's face. In this whole world, I don't have a single ally. In another place, Aloy was chatting with her best friend. Have you heard, lawyer? People are saying that the carriages going to Blisbury were lined up all along the road. Because Sergeant Sutton hasn't eaten. She asked, exasperated. Why is everyone so car crazy for him? But Abigail replied. Who knows, maybe it'll make a good impression. Maybe this will open the door to marriage. But I heard the sergeant isn't seeing anyone. So no one has won yet. Pausing for a moment, Abigail continued. But Julia is currently in the lead. She's the only one who received a formal invitation from the sergeant. I have a feeling something good will happen between them. Aloy was startled. Wait a minute. Abigail, you mean your sister Julia? But the two of them didn't know that. In order to bring food to Ryan, that girl was standing out in the rain. Abigail replied, that's right, my older sister. If everything goes well, the two of them will get married. That wonderful man will become part of my family. While her friend was daydreaming, Aloy remained silent, finding it strange. Abigail asked, Aloy, what's with that face? Only then did she slowly speak. Listen, Abigail, honestly. I hope Julia and Sergeant Sutton don't get married. Her friend heard this and was a bit panicked. Don't tell me you like the sergeant too. Aloy didn't answer but immediately showed Abigail the painting she had just finished. Abigail, I have to confess to you. I tried to express my feelings for him. Looking at her best friend's painting, Abigail couldn't help but sweat. On it were just chaotic patches of color. As if someone had carelessly mixed them all together. What kind of feeling is this? But Abigail still wanted to ask clearly. Why are you against Ryan getting with her sister? To her best friend's question, Aloy answered frankly. I actually don't get along with Julia or Sir Thon Tan. Aloy thought of the scene of those two getting together, and her face turned pale. And if the two of them get married and become a team, I can't imagine how much they'll pressure me. But Abigail looked at her friend, exasperated. Aloy, put the sergeant aside. My sister is quite close to you. A flicker of awkwardness crossed her face. Actually, not really. A while later, Abigail had returned home. She immediately went to find Julia to talk. Julia Ogilvy, how many times do I have to tell you? Don't talk about people behind their backs. What's this about being glad you don't have a strong rival anymore? Laurie's popularity is a thing of the past. Are these words you should be saying? Julia ignored her sister and continued putting on makeup. It's true, Aloy can't have children. So of course, men don't like her. But before she could finish, her sister disciplined her with force. Take a look at yourself, are you crazy? Julia said, annoyed, I am crazy. Can you please get out, you're making me late for my date. Abigail was angry, how do you not apologize? But in the end, she could only let out a long, helpless sigh. Suddenly, she noticed a dress hanging on the wardrobe door. What's wrong with the back of that dress? Cut to Aloy sitting alone on the grass, surrounded by wind and sun. A very romantic and peaceful scene. She originally came out here to find inspiration to paint. But unfortunately, the scenery was beautiful, but her mood wasn't. She let herself relax, lying down on the soft grass. She couldn't help but remember the gossip she had accidentally overheard. When Sir Sebastian retires, who will become the next caretaker? Actually, Sergeant Thon Tan is the chosen one. Accept it, you're just jealous of Aloy. Acting like royalty. Casually entering restricted areas like it's her own home. Once the sergeant gets married and settles down at Brisbury, Aloy won't be able to do those things anymore. Her eyes looked up at the sky. Her heart full of worries, my beloved Brisbury. If I could take over the position of caretaker, I'm confident I could do a good job. The renovation plans, preparing for ceremonies. I've helped my father with those things for years. But people believe that an unmarried woman can't be the caretaker. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but flail around. It's so annoying. Suddenly, Eloy's duck appeared out of nowhere. In its beak, it held a piece of fabric from who knows where. Seeing it, she no longer felt upset. Sir Lancelot, at least with you, I feel more at ease. But next time, don't be so harsh on Julia. I'll get my own revenge. The next day, Julia's voice echoed from within the villa. What do you think, sir? It's a great story, isn't it? Ryan just replied curtly, yes, very interesting. After that, he didn't say anything else. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room became awkward. So quiet. You could even hear the ticking of the clock. A moment later, Ryan spoke up. It's getting late, I have other things to do. Julia thought in a panic. I can't let him leave like this. After all my effort. Suddenly remembering something, she quickly said. Oh, right, this year's Brisbane ball will probably be very grand. Right, the entire Theo Thumb is waiting for that day. I wonder if you've chosen a dance partner yet. Mr. Host. But Ryan seemed to know nothing about this. Leaving her speechless. She could only rage inwardly. Why is he like this about everything? In the evening, Eloy received a notification from Eloy's mother that a letter from Blisbury had arrived. Your father is away again. The sergeant needs answers about the summer banquet. After reading the letter, she immediately spoke to reassure her mother. Don't worry, I'll take care of the reply. In that case, thank you, Eloy. After that, Eloy went to find documents related to the summer banquet. These books were kept in a very heavy chest, making her arms ache. It was with great difficulty that she managed to carry the stack of books up to her room. She also had to send a letter to explain the situation. To Lord Sebastian. Recently, I have heard about the Brisbane summer banquet. That I would be the one presiding over it has also reached my ears. But strangely, I didn't hear any explanation during our last meeting. I am currently waiting for the relevant information. Please reply. After finishing writing, she capped her pen. What a frighteningly stiff letter. Just like the military, she muttered to herself. This is work, eliminate personal feelings. After that, she began to research the summer ball thoroughly. The ball usually starts at 7 p.m. The seating chart, arranging positions for the guests. She focused on her work so much that she lost track of time. The next morning, she woke with a start upon hearing her mother's call. Oh my goodness, you stayed up all night? Let Mom send the letter for you. Just need to send this pile of documents. Eloy's mother took the letter to send to Ryan. Before leaving, she closed the door very gently so as not to disturb her daughter's rest. After that, a wax-sealed letter was delivered right in front of Ryan. But after opening the letter and reading it, the young man was extremely bewildered. The letter was full of mushy words. Always missing my Ryan. To Ryan, the one I always longed for. After reading it, he cringed. His brain hadn't even processed the information yet. What the hell am I reading? Never thought the day would come when that weird girl would send me a love letter. Meanwhile, at Sebastian, Eloy was stretching after a comfortable sleep. Let's see how far I got on the letter to Colonel Ryan. She sighed, resting her chin on her hand. These are just stories that he probably wouldn't even pay attention to. Especially about that guy. She couldn't help but think of that despicable person who dared to eat all her apple pie. Truly unforgivable. But it seems you were the one sneaking food. After thinking for a moment, she continued to write out the secret feelings she had cherished for so long. Each line slowly appeared under her pen. At this moment, Eloy felt as if she were sitting right in front of him, chatting face to face. Dear Colonel. For someone like him to be living in Brisbane. That, to me, is a sadness that's hard to put into words. I once argued with him because our viewpoints didn't align. But she couldn't help but recall what happened that day when she refuted Ryan's words and pointed out that the decision to withdraw troops then was absolutely correct. But he absolutely did not interrupt me. On the contrary, he listened until the very end. And then he said that he was grateful I understood and hoped I would have a peaceful evening. Do you know, it's rare to find a man like that. Because usually, when refuted, people will frown and raise their voice with resentment. Especially in military matters, they never leave me alone. They always think, what do women know? But he respected me. And it's precisely when I think of that I'm forced to admit he is truly a kind person. Seemingly realizing her previous actions were also a bit much, she crossed her arms and muttered. I think I have to stop. I have to feed Sir Lancelot. She turned back, smiled cheerfully, and continued writing. I've filled pages and pages with things you probably won't care about, haven't I? This letter, I fear, will never reach your hands. But wherever you may be, please always be healthy and happy. With all sincerity, from Eloise Isabelton. Having written this far, she decided to put her pen down. She originally intended to arrange it neatly and hide it away, but then she suddenly discovered she couldn't find the first page of the letter. She had turned the place upside down but couldn't find it anywhere. I clearly left it on the table. A letter doesn't have legs to run away. Where on earth did it disappear to? In the end, she had to helplessly give up. Lying on the bed, her eyes welled up with tears. She could only pray that no one would read it. Otherwise, she'd have no choice but to find a hole to crawl into. He cut the scene to Ryan's location. Looking at the paper in front of him, he only felt extremely curious. How did this letter end up with me? And yet, in the end, it found its way to the right person. Just then, someone outside suddenly knocked on the door, making him jump. "Sergeant." He called out, "What is it?" The other person replied, "Ah, you're here, sir. In that case, I'll clean this room later." Ryan broke out in a sweat. That was a close call. If anyone saw this letter, they would misunderstand. Thinking this, he quickly tucked it into the drawer under the desk and closed it. Since this was a private work desk, no one would come near it. Even though he had put the letter away, the words inside it still flickered in his mind. "Those worthless newspapers still won't stop slandering you. But the day I set foot in the capital, believe me, I will make every single one of them shut down for good." Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. This girl truly is a strange and interesting woman. The next day, Aloy, out of habit, was still writing a letter to the colonel. Lines that she would always keep secret and never send. "Colonel Walgrave, have you been well lately? It's been a long time since I last wrote you a letter. To be honest, I've been so busy that only now could I pick up a pen. Of course, nothing bad has happened." She leaned against a tree trunk, thinking to herself. Since there hasn't been any news from Brisbane, I guess there's no problem over there. Just then, the postman passed by and announced, "There's mail." She quickly asked, "Where is it from?" The man replied, "From Brisbane." Hearing that, she scrambled out to receive it. The postman even revealed that the sender said it was urgent. As she opened the letter, she thought to herself. A letter hastily written in a notebook. Is it that urgent? The following is the content of the letter. Please come to Blisbury as soon as you receive this letter. Not from your Ryan, but from the actual Ryan, me. After reading it, the girl was so shocked she turned pale. It turns out that paper didn't disappear, but was mistakenly taken by her mother and sent to Ryan. She quickly took a carriage and sped off to find him to get the letter back. When she arrived, she immediately ran inside. At the door, Ryan had been standing there waiting for her for a long time. His eyes, looking at her, carried a hint of mockery. She couldn't hold it in and shouted, "Hey you! Give me back my letter." Seeing her in such a hurry, he could only slowly reassure her. "Before we talk about the letter, I need you to help me handle this mess here." As he spoke, he pointed behind him. In the direction he pointed, Aloy saw two familiar backs. Subconsciously, she said their names. Mr. Kens and Mr. Wisen. They run the general stores that have been passed down for generations in the neighboring village of Carbon. Because the two shops are located opposite each other, it's hard to expect them to get along. But never before has the discord been this tense. Ryan explained. It all started with the order for the summer banquet. Both order forms were somehow sent mixed up to one place. Lori crossed her arms and said, "Can't this all be resolved just by resubmitting the order forms?" Kens objected. But last year, Lady Lori herself said that next year, our shop would be the one to receive more orders. That's exactly why both forms must come to my side. But on the opposite side, Wisen wouldn't back down either. I do not agree with this solution. The lady said the exact same thing to me. Please try to remember clearly. Faced with these two, Aloy could only cover her face in helplessness. Then, she suddenly held her hand out to Ryan. I need paper and a pen. Everyone decided to sit down and discuss it seriously. She began to offer a solution. All right then, let's handle this problem together, shall we? Last year, Kens's orders were this item and this item, while Wisen was in charge of this part, correct? But you two surely still remember last year's mistakes, don't you? Hearing this, both men immediately flinched. Aloy continued speaking. Starting with Kens's rack of lamb. Our request was for beef. And at Wisen's shop, an entire crate of spices never arrived. As she spoke, she calculated, presenting irrefutable proof. Therefore, I'm afraid I will have to reconsider assigning the entire order to a single shop. She held out two pieces of paper, one for Kens and one for Wisen. Instead, I will rewrite two new order forms to give to each of you individually. Does anyone object? After that, the other two began to study their order forms very carefully. Aloy didn't rush them, just sat waiting quietly. On the side, Ryan was looking at her with an admiring gaze. Unexpectedly, this girl is quite capable. Handled it neatly and put everything in its place. Hearing the compliment, she immediately looked smug. What's the big deal? This is simple. Ryan clapped, very good. Then please help me more with the banquet preparations. And just like that, before she could even understand what just happened, she was dragged away somewhere else by him. Now, in front of her were thick stacks of books. He said he had already checked one part. The remaining part, he'd like to ask for her help. She asked Ryan where last year's silverware inventory was. He raised his hand and pointed to a book on the shelf. It's here. As they were about to take the book, their hands accidentally touched. Aloy, slightly embarrassed, quickly pulled back. He, however, said sorry. I didn't mean to. That was just an accident. Aloy turned her face away and replied coldly, I know. Seeing this, he couldn't help but mutter to himself. You're looking at me like I'm a pervert. I wonder who's the one drawing nude pictures of people. Suddenly, he smiled. Well, you must really hate it, huh? In any case, I'm not your Ryan. But before he could finish speaking, she covered his mouth. She immediately pushed him down onto a chair, not allowing him to continue speaking. But at this moment, she suddenly blushed, realizing she had never been in such close contact with a man before. But, looking closely, this annoying guy is actually quite handsome. Startled, she quickly pulled her hand back, apologizing nonstop. What am I thinking? But just then, he unexpectedly spoke up. If you really feel sorry, then answer my question. Do you often write letters like that to the colonel? Hearing this, Eloy's face darkened. What kind of question is that? Such a pervert. However, she still answered his question. I didn't start with strange lines like that. At least, not until I stopped receiving any replies. He must have never read a single one of my letters. There are probably countless other people sending letters to him too. And because my words were never meant to reach the recipient's hands anyway, I started writing whatever my heart wanted. I must look just like a crazy girl. A nude sketch. Delusional letters. If you want to tell other people, go ahead. My reputation can't get any lower anyway. But Ryan said to Aloy. I have absolutely no intention of telling anyone. Honestly, I don't get kicks from teasing people about things like this. Assuming I were Colonel Ongrave, I would surely be very delighted to read your letters. He smiled, looking straight into her eyes. Lady Aloy, why don't you stay for dinner before you leave? But in the end, she didn't refuse and stayed. The two of them sat down at the dining table. Aloy looked at him, unable to hold back her curiosity, and asked. Sergeant Thoughton. I heard that you have difficulty eating. He replied while cutting his beef with a knife and fork. That is indeed the case. She looked at him with suspicious eyes. Then why are you eating so heartily today? He replied, I don't know why either. The answer left her speechless. If you don't know, who would? At least the ladies in town have one less thing to worry about. Ryan watched her eat, thinking to himself. This is the first time I've seen a girl whose face clearly shows what she's thinking. The women I've met in the capital are all perfect. Always graceful, gentle, and kind. So perfect that they look more like expensive dolls than human beings. By common standards, Aloy Sebastian must be a strange girl. Someone that no one could call a lady. Someone you're supposed to keep as much distance from as possible. And yet, I don't find myself disliking her. I wonder why that is. His train of thought was quickly cut off by Eloy's voice. Mr. Thoughton, what are you blowing into the pastry for? He snapped back to reality. What silly thoughts was I just having? The meal ended. He said to her. Lady Aloy, before you leave, could you possibly look over a few more documents? But it's already quite late. She refused. He then said, in that case, I'll take you home. Hearing this, the girl's face darkened. What's wrong with this guy today? The maid walked by and reminded him. Sir, please don't finish all the work today. That way, the lady can come here again. He felt that was reasonable. Right, I'll have to think of more work for the lady. He knows she can't refuse. She had no choice but to say. Well then, is there anything else you wanted to ask? He replied, just a little bit about the seating arrangement for the upcoming banquet. Laurie offered her opinion. Let's seat the Winkins couple a little further away. We already took good care of their family last time. For every single seat, she had a reasonable arrangement and assignment. Suddenly, she asked Ryan. Would you like to develop a friendship with Lady Julia Ogilvy? Or perhaps, deep down, you're thinking of inviting another lady to the upcoming tea party? He was asked but didn't understand at all. Why would you say that? Aloy replied calmly. I was just wondering if I should seat Lady Julia opposite you. That's all, sir. Does sitting opposite someone have some big meaning? My goodness, do you never attend banquets in the capital? Hearing her say that, he couldn't help but recall the banquets he had attended. Most of the banquets I attended were on orders. So I just went, ate, and left. Lori asked again. And at those times, was your seat ever coincidentally opposite an unmarried lady? He replied, it seems that actually did happen. You're only realizing that now? That seat is usually reserved for the person one hopes to become closer to. In reality, it's just a subtle way to be near someone you have feelings for or wish to cultivate a closer relationship with. At this moment, Ryan suddenly noticed her name, Aloy Seberton, and the name seated opposite was Andrew Ogilvy. It appears that is a man's name. In the evening, after completing all the preparations for the ball, Aloy finally bid farewell to everyone. On the way back, Ryan escorted her on horseback for a stretch. By now, the two of them were talking to each other more and more naturally. What are you looking at? My face? Now she's not holding back at all. What, am I that handsome? It seems humility isn't part of a soldier's virtues, is it? At least you're not denying it. Even if I did, you probably wouldn't believe it. Other people will surely praise you no matter what. Ryan flashed a confident smile. You know that well, don't you? But her next words were like a ton of bricks falling right on his head. Even so, you can't compare to Andrew. Andrew Ogilvy is the most handsome man in Feltham. Perhaps because he is so beloved, he never spares a private moment for me. Hearing her say that, Ryan suddenly became a little curious about this Andrew Ogilvy. The seat opposite Mr. Andrew Ogilvy must be fiercely fought over. Aloy couldn't help but burst out laughing. What on earth are you thinking? Andrew is the youngest son of the Ogilvy family. He will turn 5 years old this year. Ryan was startled. 5 years old? She covered her mouth, laughing. That's right, sir. Are you jealous of a 5-year-old child? The words hit a nerve, leaving him unable to argue. She continued to tease him. Do you want to be the most handsome man in this village? Is that it? Good heavens. So you see Andrew as your rival? He was extremely embarrassed, able only to lower his head and not answer. Facing off against a child who's just turned 5. Sir, I never thought you were like this. Unable to take it anymore, he quickly changed the subject. Let me tell you a story from the battlefield. Hearing that, Aloy immediately showed interest. About one of Lieutenant Colonel Ongrave's achievements. Or an achievement that the public only knows half of? Seeing her eager expression, Ryan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Why are you laughing? Is something that funny? Only then did he have a chance to counter. I'm just worried. What if you write that story down to send to your Ryan? Hearing that, her face turned bright red like a ripe apple. This damn guy. I told you not to talk about this anymore. A while later, the two of them arrived at Eloy's house. Outside the gate, the maid Emily had been waiting for her for a long time. Lady Aloy. She quickly dismounted. Emily, why aren't you sleeping? Why are you out here? My lady, how could I rest peacefully when you still haven't returned? Emily quickly draped a thin blanket over her to keep her from getting cold. The madam is very worried too. Recently, rumors about deserters have been spreading again. Hearing the word, deserters, Ryan also approached and asked. What's this about? Emily replied. This must be the first time you've heard of it, sir. Not long ago in the next village, an old man was attacked by a stranger. Since then, people have been rumoring that there are deserters hiding in the area. People even think that attacker and the deserter are the same person. He asked Aloy why she didn't mention the deserter issue. She raised a hand to scratch her cheek. I must have forgotten. His face turned serious. That's not good. From now on, I will personally escort you every day. Hearing this, both girls stared wide-eyed at him for a moment. Every day? Escort me? You mean the lady will be escorted? But from where to where? He scratched his head, not daring to look directly at Lori. Since Lord Sebastian is absent, Miss Lori here is now co-manager with me. What about it? You can come directly to Blisbury to supervise the situation. He continued, explaining on the spot. In any case, it's more convenient than writing letters all the time. Isn't that right? But she remained silent, not saying anything. Making him break out in a sweat. In her mind, she was thinking about his previous statement. Not just the manager's daughter, not just a representative, but a co-manager. Thinking of this, she smiled faintly and replied to him. I'm afraid there's no other way. As co-manager, I'm obliged to go myself. See you tomorrow. From that day on, my schedule repeated. Arriving at Brisbury early in the morning and only returning when night fell. Have all the desserts been prepared? Yes, my lady. All preparations for the summer banquet are progressing smoothly. Move the picture frame to the right a little. A little more. Miss Eloy, the adjoining room has been all cleaned up. In that case, please move these decorations over there. But during the party preparations, Ryan also directly participated in helping everyone. Looking at his back, she suddenly thought back. Wasn't there a time I made some kind of resolution? With that man, absolutely never. I swore I would never face him again. Since when did things turn out like this? All day long, from morning till night. Seeing only that face for the entire long day. Chatting with him. Thinking about it, we actually work together quite well. And it's even a little bit fun. Of course, only the stories he tells about the Colonel are interesting. This person himself is absolutely not interesting at all. After a long day of work, the two sat on the grass, resting and talking. So, who are you planning to go to camping with? Not your mother, and not Emily. Ryan suddenly made an offer. How about going with me? Meanwhile, in the capital city of Newham, inside the military headquarters, a man was sitting at his desk with his hands clasped. His expression looked extremely serious. Philip. I think our Ryan seems to have fallen in love with someone. The scene changes to the next day. Eloy was asking Ryan, what are you staring at so intently? Ryan smiled and replied. What about your face? Am I too beautiful? He used Eloy's own words to tease her. I'm afraid humility isn't part of a manager's virtues, is it? Hearing this, she was very angry but couldn't do anything to him. The sight of the two of them walking together was accidentally seen by Abigail. And very quickly, her younger sister Julia also found out about it. What is this? Isn't that Sergeant Thoughton and Eloy? Julia angrily watched them through the upstairs window. What's wrong with Eloy? Didn't she say before that she didn't like him? At this moment, Ryan was sitting in a carriage with Eloy. She, meanwhile, was lost in her own thoughts. It's hard for me to believe that only I know that side of him. It's truly unfair. When he talks to me, his tone changes completely. It seems he only reveals his true nature when he's in front of me. Sometimes mocking, sometimes joking. And doesn't hesitate to be blunt and curt. When talking to her mother, Ryan was very gentle. I have received a great deal of help and guidance from the young lady here. That's wonderful to hear, sir. She admitted. When it comes to acting in front of parents, he's definitely on another level. Seeing the scene, I can also understand that he once carried out a secret mission in the army. Before this, the two had talked about this issue. A secret mission? Sergeant Ryan Thoughton. You? She didn't think it was right. I think if you went on a mission, you'd be exposed immediately. It's all because of that annoying voice of yours. But when she saw her mother's attitude towards Ryan, she understood she had been greatly mistaken. You must not have had breakfast yet, sir. I wonder if he's tired. Emily, remember to add honey to the sauce, or our esteemed guest will find it too bland. Not only did her mother show every concern, she also chatted very happily with him. Preparing for the summer banquet must be very busy. Is Eloy being helpful at all? As for Ryan, every time he came, if he didn't bring a gift, he brought flowers. Of course, madam. The young lady has helped me a great deal. The two of them chatted happily. Eloy was naturally left out. So I wonder who Mom's real child is. Her mother was smiling brightly. It's already a great honor for you to come here. Why must you also bring gifts? Not at all. When I have the audience of the noblest lady in Feltham, I only feel how small and shameful I am. Even Eloy had to admit that this guy's acting was truly top-notch. Did he smear honey on his tongue before coming here? The next morning, Ryan and Eloy were out on the lawn chatting again. He frequently asked for her opinion. I just realized that the guest list includes the names of several people from Campen. If I greet them beforehand in Campen, won't it be more convenient on the day of the feast? Yes, that is indeed true. In that case, we'll meet at the entrance to Carbon tomorrow. Ryan said to Eloy. Let me pick you up at your house. She refused. It's fine, I can take my own carriage there. But he was still insistent. It's very dangerous to go out. That deserter still hasn't been caught. As for Carbon, how do you feel about going with me? She wondered why he suddenly mentioned Carbon. You seem to hate this idea, huh? That's not it. I'm just curious why you're going to Carbon. Elsewhere, a blonde-haired man was holding a letter with a happy expression on his face. He asked the young man with glasses. How many leave days do you have left? On the outside of the letter was written, number 841 Brisbury. While we still can, let's take some leave too. The blonde man said while fiddling with a flower in his hand. I wonder why he's dressing as if he's going on a date. Can you imagine it? The man with glasses said coldly, his face emotionless. Lieutenant Richard Cameron, please clean up your trash and get out of my room immediately. Richard sprawled on the sofa again. Ryan Ongrave, our beloved Lieutenant Colonel, seems to be enjoying a very happy recovery process. Unable to stand it anymore, the man with glasses intended to leave, making Richard quickly stop him. Wait a sec, listen to me. That letter Ryan sent recently, remember? There was one asking about clothing. The man with glasses, named Lieutenant Philip, asked back. So what? You know it. Ryan absolutely hates dealing with clothes. Richard's voice also became serious. Philip, I think our Ryan must be in a relationship. Philip replied in a low voice. Today is not an auspicious day. Scene change. Julia was rushing off to find her sister. Abigail, you just saw it, right? Sergeant Thoughton, guess what, he's on a date. And what's more, he's with Aloy. Abigail explained. They said they were going to Campen to prepare for the banquet. But Julia didn't believe it at all. That stupid work is just an excuse. She used a handkerchief to wipe away the smeared lipstick from the corner of her mouth. They must have fallen for each other while working together. No, no way. You know it too. Aloy can't stand the sergeant. Oh, sister, you're so naive. That's life. One moment you're throwing punches, the next you're wrapped up in a kiss. But Abigail didn't answer. She went into her sister's room to clean up the messy belongings. Julia, you're really... How am I supposed to clean this mess? She bent down to pick up a lipstick from the floor. And suddenly noticed her own reflection in the mirror. As if urged by something, she lightly applied the lipstick to her lips. Then she tried on the outfit her sister had left behind. And then she suddenly laughed. A bitter smile. We truly never know where life will take us. But why does my life feel both so predictable and so dull? At this time in Campen, the appearance of Ryan and Aloy had attracted the attention of a few girls in the clothing store. 3 girls peeked out. Isn't that Lady Sebastian? Who is that elegant gentleman next to her? After walking around for a while, they arrived at Wisen's shop. Welcome, Lady Aloy. Sergeant Thoughton. Long time no see, Mr. Wisen. What is this? The fragrance is wonderful. This is a tea freshly imported from overseas. When you pour hot water in and wait, it gradually blooms, returning to its original shape. It's so beautiful. Currently, it's the most popular product in Campen. Until the next shipment arrives, you'll hardly find this tea anywhere outside our shop. She tasted the tea while evaluating it. The aroma is wonderful, and the taste is too. It's truly perfect to serve at the banquet. Seeing how much she liked this tea, he immediately said, I will buy all the remaining tea in the shop. Aloy quickly tried to stop him. It will create a deficit in the banquet budget. But he didn't care. Don't worry, I intend to buy it with my own money. But when they got outside, she couldn't help but ask him. Sergeant, do you really like that tea that much? That's right. The aroma is wonderful. The taste is good too. His gaze turned towards her. Importantly, it's also very interesting to watch. Shall we move on to the next place? All right. On the way, Ryan suddenly sensed something. He quickly glanced back, extremely vigilant. Then he immediately grabbed her hand and moved quickly, causing her to be unable to react in time. Next, the two of them hid in a corner. He used his hand to cover Eloy's mouth, not letting her make a sound. Be quiet. Someone is watching us. In his head, he was forming a plan to deal with them without affecting others. That movement is definitely aimed at me. There are 2 of them, not 3. Do they know my real identity? Miss Aloy absolutely must not get dragged into this. But opposite them, a middle-aged woman suddenly spoke to the 2 of them. Go ahead and order, kids. It turns out he had accidentally pulled her into a restaurant. And the 2 people who had been following them were Richard and Philip. They noticed? Really? Looking at him at times like this. Returning to a time before that. Richard and Philip are walking down the street. Richard, why don't we go straight to Brisbane? Think about it, Philip. If we go see Ryan right now, what do you think we'll hear? Long time no see, I miss you guys so much. My precious friends. You think Ryan will welcome us? We'd be lucky if he doesn't kick us straight out. You know, with that personality. Do you really think? He'll introduce his lover to us. Wanting to meet them means we just have to show up. Unexpectedly. Right, that's why we came to Cambon. First we leave our luggage here. Grasp the situation, then sneak over to Brisbane. At this moment 2 girls walk by. And Richard accidentally overheard their conversation. I heard the Blissberry manager is here too. Who? Ryan Thon Tan. His eyes immediately narrowed. Thon Tan. That's the nickname Ryan, used while on missions. After that, the two of them start following Ryan and Aloy. Richard holds binoculars observing and says to Philip, "You see it right. Just now. Was that really Sir Ryan?" Back to the present. Ryan and Aloy are still temporarily hiding in the restaurant. The two of them whisper to each other. "They've started tailing us." "Yes, and there's more than one." "Why are you acting so scary?" "Stop kidding, I'm not joking. In case something happens, just wait a bit." His eyes turn cold. At this moment, the door is suddenly pushed open by someone, followed by a pair of feet slowly stepping inside. Ryan immediately stands up, blocking Lawyer's front. However, the person who entered is a middle-aged woman. When she sees her, she is also very surprised. "It's been a long time, hasn't it? How are you, Miss Sebastian?" "Long time no see, madam. You know this person." She just remains silent. Her eyes glance slightly at Ryan standing next to her. Seeing this, she immediately introduces the two to each other. "This is Sergeant Ryan Thompson, the new steward of Brisbury. And this is Madam Amber Greenwood, the matchmaker of Cambon's high society. Half the couples living here were matched by her." Aloy, although smiling on the outside, thinks differently in her heart. "She never really liked me much. Said I was too immature to marry. So why today did she specially come to greet?" But when she looked at Ryan, she understood. That's right. A gentle and well-liked gentleman. The perfect model of an ideal husband. "It's such an hun. Or to meet you in this situation. If you don't mind, Sergeant, I'd like to introduce you to the ladies of Carbon." Hearing this, she breaks out in a cold sweat. "It's just as I thought. It's true that handsome men get noticed wherever they go." At this moment, Madame Amber's glasses suddenly glint. She suddenly says to the girls who are crowding outside the door, "Girls, please come in." Hearing that both Aloy and Ryan can't help but turn pale. "When did you all arrive, and why are there so many?" Outside, Richard and Philip are still eavesdropping. "See anything?" "Seeing anything is impossible. Why are so many ladies gathered here?" Aloy has now snuck outside. She waves her hand inside, signaling to Ryan, "I'll go finish preparing the party. Then come back to meet me in front of the carriage, okay?" "Wait a minute, so all these people are the ones monitoring the sergeant? Why is a soldier's instinct so respectable?" Laurie picks up the paper to look first. "We went to Mr. Kenz's shop." Suddenly, someone calls her name. Making her turn her head, it's Ryan. "Don't know how he managed to escape." You ran away." "Not really, I just wanted to give you something." Saying that, he hands a pink box to her. "What is it? Open it later. Go." After saying that, he flashes a happy smile, then leaves again, leaving her standing holding the box in her hand, not knowing what to do. "Yes, next time please visit again, Miss Aloy. See you next time." So my last task is completed. I wonder if Sergeant Thon Tan is still around here. Is this a gift for me? I'll open it. While waiting at the carriage, scene changes to a drink shop. A girl is shyly introducing herself. "My name is Cynthia Pembo Tan. Very pleased to meet you, sir." Madam Amber continues. Words. The Pembo Tan family is also one of the most prestigious lineages in Cambon. In the past, the great-great-grandfather of Miss Cynthia performed great deeds for the country. Because of that, she inherited a vast farmland area in western Cambon. Furthermore, the Pembo Tan family was also an old noble family in the past. Throughout the conversation, Ryan just sits silently listening. He sweats inwardly. No one would believe me if I said this, but this atmosphere is even more suffocating than when I entered enemy territory. Madam Amber asks him, "Are you uncomfortable, Sergeant?" "Oh no, I'm fine." He can only motivate himself. Smile, smile, Ryan, one grave. Think of something funny. Suddenly, he remembers Aloy. The times when he and she chatted together. "Do you paint often?" "Yes, I love it. Landscape paintings are beautiful. Portraits are beautiful too." "Portraits? Hey, don't you ever get tired of teasing me with those nude sketches?" "Why not? It's not like that. It's just that right now we happen to have an hour's break." "Right, and why? Exactly for what reason do we have to paint portraits of each other?" "Well, it's fun. Anyway, this is Miss Eloy's hobby. I don't exactly paint people just for fun. But trying it once isn't bad. Especially with a handsome face like this. Second only to Andrew at Feltham. I'll give you one as a gift. I hope you like it. Because this is the first gift I've ever given you. But this painting is really weird. Ever since then, every time I try to give something, she always looks at me with suspicious eyes." Rand takes a small sip of tea. I wonder if this time she'll still keep That same expression. In another place, Aloy has now opened the box. When she sees what's inside, she's very surprised. This is the type of tea I saw at Wilson's shop. At that time, it was definitely in a glass jar. When did he prepare this? So funny. Does he think I'll be happy? Just because I received something like this. Well then, see you again in Brisbane. As for over here, Ryan is so tired his soul is about to leave his body. It's only been about 3 hours. Miss Aloy must be waiting when the two of them meet. Aloy can't help but ask him. Among the ladies you met today, is there anyone you'd like to escort? No one. I see. Do you have anyone you've promised a future to in the capital? No. Well, before, was there anyone you gave your heart to? No one at all. Are you planning to be single forever, Sergeant? What about you, Miss Aloy? But surely you haven't heard about the club I have the honor of leading. A group of people who have withdrawn from matrimony, to put it simply. He looks at her, thinking to himself. It seems she didn't withdraw voluntarily. Where is your hometown, Sergeant? Chester City. Were you born and raised there? I don't know where I was born, but I lived there 310 years old. I see. Thinking back, this is the first time I've asked about the sergeant. The sunlight shines in, making her squint. Until now, we've only ever talked about work or answered questions about the lieutenant colonel. Seeing that, Ryan quickly uses his hand to shield her. You can ask more about me too. The gentle sunlight shines on both their faces. While the scene is very romantic, the carriage suddenly runs over a rock. The result is both of them bump their heads, raising bumps. Loi asks Ryan if you lived in Chester until you were 10. What about after that? Her question makes him remember his biological father. Why did he choose to appear at this very moment? Ryan, one grave, come with me. He replies, I just wandered here and there. What kind of evasive answer is that? You were the one who told me to ask more. Can I also ask a question? Yes? The singles group you mentioned, are there other members? No. Have you met Abigail? I heard about her from Miss Julia, but I only know that much. Do you know Abigail has to rely on a cane to walk? Yes, I've heard. If you know, then I have a question for you. People with disabilities are people who are lacking in some way. Do you also think so, Sergeant? I am a soldier. Do you think that? No one around me has ever felt the horror of war on their very own bodies. Why, I'm glad you object. Otherwise, I would have kicked you out of this carriage immediately. Well then, I can tell you without worrying. Abigail is my childhood friend. She finds it difficult to walk without relying on a cane. So I often visit Abigail's house. Miss Aloy, where did you come from? The capital, Albany. I came to Theo Thumb to recuperate. I had a serious illness when I was young, so I cannot have children. A flaw, as people say. In the marriage market, it's no different from a goods market. Right. Taking people out to weigh and measure, as if the act of treating humans like products doesn't sicken them. But the funny thing is, occasionally, there are still men who come to flirt with me. They're aiming for the inheritance I received. Every time I chase them away in that way. How do you do that? By saying things they don't want to hear. My partner's height must clearly be 1 meter 85 or taller, a man who doesn't smoke. My partner must not go out with friends and leave me alone. I spend a lot of money buying books. Do you mind? When I am speaking, you absolutely must not interrupt me. Those sentences are like bullets, digging straight into the pride of those arrogant men. Then at some point they naturally distance themselves from me. It's strange. The conditions I listed aren't that hard to meet. Right? No, not at all. In the evening, Lori is sitting in her room. Compared to Ken's, the quality of Wilson's shop seems better. Suddenly she thinks of Chester, Sergeant Thon Tan's hometown. It's an industrial city, located in the north of Indiana. Because of the smoke from the factories, the sky there is almost impossible to see clearly. A land filled with crime, pollution, and poverty. He always speaks proudly of the place he was born, but avoids mentioning the places he lived after that. I wonder where he has wandered. Speaking of which, that portrait. When will it be finished? Tomorrow is a day off, so maybe I'll work a little more on the painting. The more I think, the more annoyed I get. I'm pouring my whole heart into this, and he's off painting geese. Honestly, he really is a strange person. The next day, the maid, extremely bewildered, asks Aloy, Milady, I just want to ask quietly, are you and Sir Thor Tan in love or something? As she spoke, she pointed at the portrait that Aloy had just finished. She replied, we're just painting portraits for each other. The maid looks at her with doubtful eyes. I'm even more suspicious after hearing that reason. You must really like painting for each other, huh? So is that a good enough explanation? That day Aloy has afternoon tea with her mother. This is the first time Mom has seen flowers and tea displayed together. It's truly beautiful, isn't it? Mom, I'll use this kind at the party in Brisbane. If it's imported tea, it must be very expensive. Will the budget be able to bear it? Sergeant Sun Tan used his own money to buy it. So Mom, don't worry about it. He must have his own reasons. From what I've heard, he's won quite a few medals in the army. He's not the type of person who likes to show off wealth. That's surprising, Aloy. This is the first time Mom has heard you praise a man. This is also very suspicious. The video ends here. If you guys liked it, don't forget to hit like. Thank you and goodbye.